sta solo Tevez all'interno dell'area, fa fuori tutti Tevez, si apre la porta Tevez, gol, da dietro, Pirlo dentro, gol.
Ciao Juventini, welcome to the Adrian Rabiot show. Oh, wait, sorry, the all Juve cast, all right? Of course it's all Juve all the time, but my God, Adrian Rabiot with the solid performance. How do we not have Lou on a show where he comes out and puts a game like that? Lou, good morning.
I'm sorry, who?
Oh, yes.
I keep getting tagged. I'm not even on Twitter. I keep getting tagged, in these tweets. I just don't know who we're talking about.
Amazing. Omer, great having you on. Lou, great having you on. We're going to recap Juventus and Empoli, okay? Man, didn't expect 4 getting bagged, and it could have been a lot more. And a little bit of a whirlwind there from first half to second half, but it's great stuff. Okay, so we're going to recap it all, get into some news. There was some news hidden today, some clarification on a couple pieces from yesterday too. So we'll get to all of that. All right, we're going to say what's up to everybody. Jeremiah in here right again. Well done, horsepower Rabiot. Currently the engine and heartbeat of this team. Can't remember the last time we won 4-0. Finally, a set system 3-5-2 that's building character and confidence. We're definitely going to get into the 3-5-2, players getting back and all of that. And Jeremiah came extremely close with his prediction. Lou?
Well, I can see it's a vein in the forehead.
2-0 for me. Every time I refresh, it says 2-0. But
yeah, Lou has blocked everything, including goal notifications from number 25. Everything. It just simply doesn't exist in his realm. So there you go, Bobby Yoga. So ciao, right on, Jeremiah, for getting close there on that. And Anthony, nail it. Buckle up if we're sending Lou into this show. Amazing. And then Swarit hitting on some news that we're definitely going to get into. Ciao, everybody. And if you could take the quick second to just hit that like button is massive. Okay. And if you're new here, subscribe to the channel. So we're going to get to Juventus and Empoli real quick. We're going to get to a couple tidbits from the news that broke out today. Obviously, everything we had close eyes on and we're following was Federico Chiesa. All right. Getting his test match in there on that friendly. Bagging himself a brace, inject that into my veins. Let's fucking go. All right. So great stuff with Chiesa there. And I think we're all ready, beyond ready to see this guy start to get some minutes. So yeah. Anything to add, fellas?
On the match, Moretti did score a goal. In the match. So that's exciting. I think that I speak for everyone saying that Chiesa coming back is it's been so long and it's just so great to see him back. It feels this momentum we're going through to get him back would just be amazing for us.
Yeah. It's all the signs are starting to point in the right direction, and getting this guy back is going to be a big boost. Omer?
Yeah, that guy, man, he has everything we love, doesn't he? Like I want him back. That was a brutal injury. Having a player like that when he just started bursting onto the scene, won the Euros, and bam, 9 months out. Couldn't have come sooner.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll end up seeing, of course, we'll keep you, everybody in the loop as we get closer to that Champions League match with Benfica, which, again, we know we need help, but none of it's going to matter if we can't get our own job done. So we got to get the victory in that one and see what happens. We'll see if how many minutes Chiesa can get and what can happen. Now, the other bit of news, and actually we should talk about this too while we're talking about, the young side and everything, and he got his test there and whatnot. It feels like every single match you guys are posting Kenan Yildiz goals. This guy is on an absolute tear, and it's definitely something for Juventini to keep tabs on if you haven't already. Like, unbelievable. And the last goal was ridiculous. But go ahead, guys.
I was just going to say, I don't think many people saw this, but we retweeted it from the account. But our friend, Mirko Di Natale, shout out to Mirko, he's the best, responded to one of our followers asking when he's going to get called up. Mirko had tweeted initially that, eventually in the future, especially next summer, I think he becomes part of the first team. That's like kind of the feeling that next year he'll join the first team. And someone asked, but why next year? And he responded saying, well, it might happen before then. Like there could be a match, the Coppa Italia, maybe towards the end of the year, like Moretti, where we start to see this kid. He's unbelievable. He really does score every time the Primavera play.
It's unbelievable. He's at six or seven goals in 9 matches or something like that. And and the goals, the quality of the finishes, and man, it's unreal. Like that's pretty damn exciting. So again, for all of those, like Cherubini's project and everything that he's put together there, and like they're after a couple other names that were just as like touted as Yildiz as well. And Juve's in the mix on all these guys up and coming. So again, we've all felt a little bit of unclarity over the project for some time, and how committed Juve is to it and everything. But if there's one thing that's been going right over these past few seasons, it's the work that's being done there. And I think we can all agree on that. So promising stuff with Yildiz. Omer, anything to add?
Yeah, even Montero addressed it. They asked him after the match, would we see him in the first team? And he said that's for the executives to decide. So we might see him this season, but this kid I know he's for real. I thought it was just, something at the beginning, and it just keeps on pumping goals. So it seems like the real deal.
Yeah.
Sorry, Omar. While we're at this, Montero spoke yesterday, or maybe it's yesterday, but either the day before, after the Primavera game where Yildiz scored, and he talked about, the youth project and kind of the results they're seeing and the player performances and the work that Juventus has done, and, kind of complimenting it, but then also talking about his job and the club's kind of priority, which is to, teach these kids what it means to represent the shirt, to, to the desire to win, to work hard, the sacrifice. And when you hear that from your U19 coach, we know Montero's place in Juventus history. Fans love him. He's a part of our history. But to hear him, and that's what they're teaching to the U19s after the board had that next gen kind of thing where they were talking about it, to hear that from the coach, it's a good sign, because that's how you build culture from top to bottom. And I think that's what Juventus have kind of tried in this last 2-3 years, is to build culture from top to bottom. So credit to the Primavera, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, the last piece of news before we get to Juve and Empoli recap and everything is going to be Bonucci and contract renewal and update, because there was news of Bonucci getting an extension or whatnot. And obviously that got everybody kind of fired up. But I guess it's been clarified that what it's actually going to be is just the option that was already in the existing contract being taken him till 2024. So did I get that correct, guys? Is that kind of what's been put out today?
Yeah, there was like an option to 2024, and they exercised it. So it's not an extension by 1 more year. It's just exercising the option in his current contract.
There you go. So
just a quick, I believe last year we reported that his deal, because it was rumored in the summer that he was going to at some point during the season restructure his deal, that his deal was kind of similar to Chiellini's, where it's like, if he wants to play another year, it's his, but he can hang up and quit anytime. There's no like the Juventus won't have to pay him throughout his contract. And I think this restructure is just, to take a pay cut and, just like everyone else, like get below the salary marker.
Yeah, absolutely. There you go. So we got clarification on that. We're absolutely jacked up on Chiesa. And then let's get to the 4-0 victory. So, in predictions yesterday, I had a couple calls. I called 2-0. I didn't think we were going to bag 4. I thought Keane was going to get on the scorecard because he's been on an upward trend as of late with the determination and effort and everything. And I thought, hey, he's going to deserve one. And I thought we were going to get a bunch of opportunities playing Empoli and whatnot. So it was partly there, but I didn't call 4 goals like Jeremiah did and whatnot. So props there. We're going to get to lineups and everything like that, because the lineups, again, when we saw what was going to happen, there was probably only one change, I guess. Yeah, there was 2 changes that were kind of going to be question marks. One was Milik going to play up top, or was it going to be Moise Kean? So Kean ends up starting the game next to Vlahovic. Across the middle, it was exactly as anticipated, with Cuadrado and Kostic as your wingbacks, McKennie, Locatelli, Rabiot in the middle. At the back for the three-man defense, we ended up getting Rugani and sitting Sandro Danilo on the left side of Bonucci. Okay, so and that was actually one of the things I called for, except I wanted Gatti to probably get the minutes in this one, but it was Rugani, and that's fine. Rugani's been serviceable since last season, and really up to this season too. He's been serviceable, so I had no issues with the starting lineup. What did you guys think on the starting lineup? I think Omar is going to be the one get interesting in this one for lineups, but we'll get Lou first. Any thoughts on the lineup other than we were one guy short because 25 was in there?
Yeah, I mean, playing with 10 men is just, I don't know why I like it all the time, but there's just a blur on that side of the pitch for me. I don't know why that happens. But I said in our chat, I was happy with Keane playing Vlahovic. I said post-match, after the derby, I thought that Keane and Vlahovic complement each other well, and I think that he plays better with the center forward. So I was happy to see that. I didn't particularly like the middle of the park just in general. I thought maybe something would be shook up there, but that was really my only kind of hiccup, was kind of that, between the wing backs and the midfielders, would something change? Maybe Moretti get in there, Fagioli even, but the back line I have no problem with. I just note on Gatti, if he's not playing, I wonder if maybe there's something that we don't see as fans. Like maybe he's just not as great in training as, he was before. Maybe there's just a hiccup there. So I'll be curious to see if he plays the match next weekend against Lecce or not.
Yeah, I would anticipate him getting the start against Lecce for sure. And then it would kind of make sense. If not, then yeah, something might be up there. Props to Michael Razzo. His prediction was also very close. Could have been 6-0, yes. We're going to get to this one as we recap a little bit further on Dusan essentially not really getting a ball or chance yesterday. We're going to get to that after. Omar, your thoughts on the lineup before we quickly recap the highlights?
I took a massive L. Like I was bitching before
Hey, man. It happens.
It happens. What do I know? There's a reason I don't sit on the Juve bench. I saw the lineup and I was like, who are we playing? The guys who are supposed to leave at the end of the season, or like a mix between the guys we don't want to see and all the youngsters and all the talk about our project and all this stuff, and we don't get to see these guys play. But what I say and what happens on the pitch is an entirely different thing. We won for nothing. I'm happy to be wrong when this is the result and the outcome. So I don't know if it's something we should bank on. Maybe it was just before the Benfica match, but it proved to be successful. So who am I to judge? And thank you, Max, for the 4-0 win. And that's it.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. And hey, you know what? Yeah, sometimes we just got to ride it out and see, depending on what we think on those lineups. And that was one of those days for Omar. And I've had many myself. I think we all have. But that's awesome. That's what the team needs to do. It's basically, deliver and do it for Max too. If he's the one making those calls, they got to back them up. So we've always said, like, it's not just solely on Max, but some of it's on the players too, and they had to pull up their socks and get their pride involved in the mix here and get together. These little team huddles you're seeing pre-match and post-match, that's a nice sign. That's a nice sign, and everybody's involved. Like that's coming a long way from dropping matches to teams you should have no business dropping, and then portion of the squad acknowledging the fans and some of the guys walking away to the locker room can't be bothered with it. This is a much, much better sign.
Maybe the retiro. Maybe that's the effect of the retiro. That maybe that's what it did. Like huddling up the team, making them play together. Less, of a tactical stuff. Just making them work together and game by game. That's what it looks like to me. I can't tell you I will be excited if I see this lineup again. I probably won't. But let's hope I'll keep being wrong and Allegri keeps being right.
I think the exact quote in our news chat was, "This lineup has 7 out of 11 players that I would sell this summer," or something like that. It was funny.
Am I wrong?
All right.
Am I wrong?
No.
Is that the AGC tweet of the match? I don't know. Maybe we'll see. Okay. So we went through the lineup again. We all kind of had our thoughts there. I'm kind of with Lou. I would have liked a little bit more dynamic player in the midfield, but it was all good. And the back line, I like the fact that they had two actual center backs in there and Danilo shifted to the left because we had Quad on the right. I thought that was great. We'll get into the game now. So we kickstart this thing in the right way, and Moise Keane getting a well-deserved goal for his efforts over the past few cameos and matches. He's been working his ass off, gets it 8 minutes in off a nice little cross there from Kostic. We're 1-0 up. Then you get a little bit relaxed, probably 10, 15 minutes after that from Juventus and whatnot. We're kind of carries through, but to be honest, we still got our chances, and we had a cross from McKennie that ends up finding Keane on a free header. He just puts it wide. Quadrado gets stripped, giving Empoli probably one of their best chances of the match with Destro like in the area all alone. Luckily, they closed down quick enough to force him to shoot from there, and he didn't quite put it where he wanted it, and Tech makes the save. But Quadrado, we're going to talk a lot about Quadrado as we get later on, okay? Another rip from Empoli, deflected by Destro as it was making its way, caught Szczesny completely. Luckily, the deflection carried it wide. If that would have deflected towards goal, probably would have been even. And again, you've got Juve kind of relaxed after that 1-0 goal, a little too relaxed for my liking, and suffering because we just gave them possession and we sat way too far back, in my opinion, with the back line. Again, Quadrado ends up finding McKennie, turns and rips this one, but couldn't slide it through the keeper. It just hit his body and deflected out and stopped it. And then you have a cross back post for Empoli that Piazza attacks. We don't want Piazza scoring against us, okay? Our annual loanee, where we loan him out every year for I don't know how many years now. But it finishes on that, and that's halftime. Honestly, outside of the start and the 1-0 goal, I thought I was very frustrated in the fact that we just simply let off, especially because of the fact that with us playing in that manner, we still were able to generate. I thought that game was there for the killing in the first half. First half, kill these guys, especially with the Champions League match on Tuesday, get a little bit more rotation on, and it was there. The fact that we played and we had our line dropping so far back and we could still generate a few opportunities while being absolutely played off the pitch in terms of possession, barely having the ball and still being able to generate opportunities that could have ended up in goals. I thought, man, that game was there for the killing in the first half against an Empoli that essentially was just so focused on Vlahovic that everybody else was able to find moments and opportunities, basically. But frustrating one for me. And I saw some bad sequences in that first half that I didn't really like. When Quadrado would get up the pitch, obviously slow things right down. He'd lose it. McKennie did a great job covering. And if you watched Locatelli in this one, he had a solid game, a really solid game. He's up there for man of the match for me in this one, and we'll get to that after the highlights. Locatelli was directing traffic when these guys got caught on the offensive and gave the ball up. And McKennie went back, covered Quadrado. Quadrado comes back, and I might add, very slowly for someone who's out of position because he got caught there. He comes back, and when he does come back, McKennie's still occupying his position. He goes to that position and ignores the guy who McKennie should have been marking but couldn't because he's covering him. And then he's not even directing or communicating everything. It's shocking stuff for a guy who's supposed to be a veteran on this team. But I saw that not on one occasion in the first half. 3 times I saw that, where Quad was just like, okay, man, he's covering you there. You take up his position until you can get sorted out. And it's frustrating. But first half, I was actually not happy despite the 1-0. Your guys' thoughts on after the first half? We'll start with Omer.
Yeah, I was doing the tweets from the main account, the live action match. And I wrote that it's nothing new. It's nothing we haven't seen before. Early goal, drop back, and let the opposition take control. And maybe against a better side, we didn't end up that half leading because they had their chances. Quadrado is an anomaly at this point. It seems like he's the only one who just does whatever the hell he wants, not considering tactics, lineup where he should be, what he should do. And I'm kind of sick of him. I've been sick of him for a long time, but to the level that he shouldn't be in the starting 11, in my opinion. We'll get to his assists later, but I really wanted to see Juve go out to the second half swinging, and which they did. But up until that point, I felt like I felt in every game so far. Starting well for 15, 20 minutes and then dropping down and usually conceding.
Yeah. All right. That's fair. Lou?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit of the same. I think that like that first half, you could say that, and the famous words of Gattuso, sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit. Like it really was. Like it just, there were periods where you would watch it and you think, okay, like this is, the team looked like it was moving like a unit. There was patterns of play, like people were making runs off the ball, especially in the opening, 10 or 15 minutes where we got the goal. Like there were some patterns, but then the drop off was, it wasn't even just that they were sitting back. Some of the passes they were making were a little sloppy, errors like Quadrado, as you mentioned now, where it's kind of running around everywhere. But I thought, to highlight one part, I thought the midfield as a whole, even that first half when it dropped off, they kept their level, throughout that whole first half. And McKinney, Locatelli, Rabiot, they were all doing like their work, and they were all, doing their jobs adequately. I thought like, it's kind of the rest of the team that really wasn't. And also Juventus this season, for how many attacking woes they've had, have counterattacked very well. So I think that's why we were able to get some chances, despite not playing particularly well for most of that first half, was that the counterattack has always kind of been on for us. It's the one thing we do very well in attack.
Yeah. Great points, guys. Good stuff. And the Quadrado thing, as Omer's talking about him, think he shouldn't be in love. We're gonna get to ratings and stuff after and really dive into this, because there's already some comments in the chat just about the numbers and whatnot. But I don't know. Even with the numbers, I see too much that could be a detriment and whatnot. But we'll carry on. Second half, come on, let's get it going. And you know what they did this second half? God damn it! Where has that been? That is the tempo. That's the one thing. Like for me, the tempo at which we played the second half, which I don't understand why we cannot see consistently. Guys talk about quality of players all the time and this and that. Sure, it's Empoli, and I've got my thoughts about Empoli as well, but that tempo should always be like our standard, like what we should be aiming for to play with. When we play so drab, so slow, I call it all the time, and you can see it, and all of us can see it. That's when our turnovers start to skyrocket, because we're playing so slow, legs aren't moving, everybody gets lazy, and there's no options for players. Part of it's system too, but that tempo should be what we strive for in every single match. It's the only thing that I picked out that we actually did differently. We didn't do anything differently this game as far as like system goes or anything like that. It's just we played with the proper tempo. We were able to cause problems for those guys. They focus so much on Dusan, while everybody's saying, there's some comments there, if he wants to be a top striker, he's got to be better at positioning everything. Look, their game plan was literally shut down Vlahovic. And what have I been saying for so long? When our key guys get focused on like that, it's up to the other guys to step it up and find their avenues. Because if they're going to try and rule out one that intensely, that means there's opportunities for other guys. In this one, the other guys were finding their opportunities, and a couple of them made the most of it. Lou, you wanted to add on that?
Yeah, just on the Vlahovic thing. Fans, listen, he's not a perfect product yet. He's also 22 years old. Like, he's a great player. He will become a great player. But there are things that obviously in his game he's going to have to learn, right? That's just part of, growing up as a player. Yes, we paid a high fee for him, but that doesn't mean he's not a 22-year-old striker. Like, you got to give these guys some time. Like, I think people think that you sign someone at 21 and just because he scored 30 goals at Fiorentina, he's going to be Erling Haaland. It's just not everyone's like that. And, it just takes some time. Like, we got to relax a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, Raymond saying, did you find when Moretti came on, there was more interchange in the midfield? A little bit. It's one of the things I've been kind of criticizing the team for is when you look, and we'll get more into that in the post match, when our midfield just doesn't play as a unit and together. And in Rabiot, Locatelli, and McKennie, you really see that there's not a lot of interchange between them. Guy like Cuadrado, guy like Kostic, they see a ton of play, and we can become one-dimensional. And you see our guys bombing forward the Metsalas, like all the way up to the line. And it's something I've been keeping tabs on, because if a team, and this is what we didn't expect from Empoli, I said it in the Match Day Live, I wasn't sure if they were going to play their standard 4-2-3-1, or if they were, 4-3-1-2, or if they were going to go with an extra defender back there to make 5 and widen out. Because when teams do that, shut down our flanks, then it really highlights how our midfield doesn't interchange and work together to build up the pitch and whatnot. Something that really shines through. Go ahead, Omer.
But it's like they listened to our last podcast. Like, they didn't drift wide. Both McKennie and Rabiot, like they did in the previous games, this time they stayed central and got into the area and around the area, but not out wide like we got used to see. And what can we say? 3 goals from the midfield.
Yeah,
it does work.
What you mentioned about the wings and kind of gets lost in this performance is Kostic's performance, especially in the first half. How many crosses he was getting into the box. I mean, I thought this was his best game in a Juventus shirt. I really did feel like, the crosses he was getting were quality. They were dangerous. He could have had more than one assist in this half if people finished off their chances. But I think having that outlet, even the runs he was making, it sets up your midfielders to make that ball, between the fullback and the center back. He's making those runs where I think before there wasn't a whole lot of that. And even when he was making those runs, maybe they weren't getting picked up, but because the midfield, everyone understands their jobs, right? Locatelli is the tempo guy. McKennie is, kind of that forward-thinking mezzala, right? Rabiot is doing his thing, whatever that is. The rest of the team is kind of working off of it. And once you have that part of it, you could start to see these kind of runs and these patterns of play, like, kind of develop. It wasn't really landmark in the first half, but when we get to the second half, you really, really see that. And there's a few other points about the second half we get into once we get through the highlights.
Yeah, we'll rip through the rest of the highlights here. So, again, second half tempo, big thing. But we kick things off right. McKennie gets to the corner kick, sent in by Quad. Okay, and we're up 2-0. Nice seeing him get on the board. I mean, if he's going to be getting that many minutes, these contributions from these guys are huge and will only boost their confidence, right? So good there. We got Kostic after a long cross flashed over from the right side, falls to him. He takes a stab at it and just drifts his wide of the short side corner. Then you got Rabiot again on a corner kick. He gets his in there, and goalie getting a palm to it, but it was over the line. 3-0. Okay. And 25. Sorry, Lou. Rabiot. It was 3. Okay. Wasn't 2-0 still. And then Milik, he ends up coming into the match. He flashes an open header, which should have been buried. He wanted that one back for sure. But we're all over them. The tempo is just massive. Moretti ends up entering the match. We talked about a little bit of the interchange helping a bit, but my God, Moretti did everything right on this opportunity. The touch was beautiful, the feint, and then just not able to find goal, but fantastic stuff from him. He really, really, I wanted him to get that one so bad.
Yeah. He needs the first
just
goal.
wanted to see him finish that one. It's all
too.
good, though. Promising stuff from the kid. And big congrats again to him on getting Best Italian U21 at the Golden Boy Award. So fantastic stuff there. And then you have Danilo end up coming up the pitch there on his run, finding the horsepower, Rabiot, to tap in, get his brace, 4th goal season, 4-0 finish. great second half. Okay. So there you go, lads. Okay. Juve, great second half. More of that, please.
It was a good 82 minutes. Let's be real here.
Okay. More of that, please. Okay. But honestly, now as we'll recap the match, we'll get into everything. I want to get into, before we get to the performances and man of the match and stuff, we'll get the AJC tweet out of the match. And it's not even a tweet. Okay. For me, I said, don't ever do this. All right. But it's an image. And if I'm going to be put through it, God damn it, you are as well, Lou. But actually, Lou, maybe just maybe close your eyes, just cover them or something. I don't know if I don't want to kill you. But this has got to stop, everybody. But there's no AJC tweet of the match. But this is what's going around. This is the kind of stuff that's going around. Take it easy. Take it easy, everybody.
You see what I mean? People go, Lou, you're negative. Why would you do that? And this is why. This is what we can't have happen.
Look, and not being serious for a moment. Like, it's fine. It's all good. Just do that. 30 matches a season. 30 out of almost 60 we play, and it's fine. I'm fine with it. Don't do that once every 10 games.
I don't think I'm fine with this ever.
No, this is the most exaggerated thing I've seen in a while.
Yeah, so the thing with Rabiot, and we'll get to it. So first off, we should just go on man of the match. So everybody that's here in the live as well, get your man of the match in right now, and we'll see who everybody thought was man of the match. We'll kick this one off with Lou. Lou, who's your man of the match?
Locatelli.
There you go. So Locatelli for Lou. Omer, who's your man of the match?
He took mine. No, I'll have to say Locatelli too. No, you know what? Screw you, Rabiot.
Rabiot, there you go. Honestly,
not in the black book, Omar.
Yeah, I've been in your black book for a while.
So Locatelli was going to be mine as well. Alex P saying man of the match, Loca, without a doubt. Anthony saying Loca had a banger of a game yesterday. Absolutely. Danilo was a shout for me as well. Danilo so it's funny because I've been the one out there fighting the good fight for Danilo and Locatelli this entire time that people are, getting fired up on these guys and whatnot. Look, Danilo is far from an issue, okay? Like, far from an issue. This guy number one, for a team that's had injury problems for several years going into this one, Danilo's always fit, and he's actually in excellent shape. And if you watch his training regimen and whatnot, it's intense. Like, he's up there with the likes, not far off from guys like Ronaldo when it comes to, like, training and physical conditioning. The other thing is he gives you 150% every single time he's out there. Whether the quality and execution sometimes fails, hey, that happens to everybody. But nobody can, don't make a problem out of the guys that effort and work rate and determination is always at the top. Don't make a problem out of those guys. Locatelli, my God, Locatelli was being ravaged there for a while. And I said, look, when you've got guys coming in like Paredes that have the same struggles, it's more of a system issue and problem with everything rather than it is the guy. And don't go hard on a guy like that was used and run ragged last season by Max and stuff. Like, hey, let's be calm and everything. And Locatelli said everything right post-match too, in his words. And it was fantastic to hear. But this was a performance he badly needed. So, guys, you want to touch on the Danilo Locatelli thing before we get into some other performances?
Yeah, I just think, Danilo, listen, I get it. He doesn't reinvent the wheel. He's not a pretty fullback when you think about it. But he does his job and he does it well. I mean, yesterday there was a period where he made a mistake. He, anticipated a ball too soon. It got past him, right? I forget who it was, but whoever was on the right flank for Empoli was running down the side, and he caught him. He was behind a couple yards, caught him, made a great tackle, celebrated it, and, recovered very well. These are things that a lot of our players don't do specifically well. So it's just, that he offers a little bit of veteran leadership. People are just hating a guy that's trying his best, right? It's just, That's a little uncalled for, in my opinion. As far as Locatelli, Al, you summed it up best. This is probably his best performance this season. He really needed it. I think putting him back in that role in front of the defense, letting him, kind of, manage the midfield to defense kind of link there, slow things down, protect the defense a little bit. I think just it complements his abilities more. And we can forget this whole, Mezzala number 8, Locatelli thing.
Yeah. And in terms for Michael Razzo, not clear on what Locatelli said, for anyone that missed it or whatnot, these were his words. Essentially, this year, I know the expectations on me are raised. I want to give my best. Something clicked for us as a group. We are more united now. From the difficulties we've had, you can now see men. You need heart to wear this jersey, and that's what we're trying to do. That's fantastic. That's exactly how you should address all this stuff. Doesn't get into the criticisms and all this whatnot. He says, look, I know the expectations are raised and I want to match them and whatnot. And he acknowledges the difficulties and says, hey, you acknowledges the shirt and what it takes to wear it. And that, yeah, he might have not been there, but he's going to do his best to be damned, get there. I love it. I love it from Locatelli. Fantastic stuff. Omar.
Go ahead, Omar.
Yeah, you summed up Lucatelli, so I won't add. The Danilo thing, there's playing with 3 at the back and having like the 2 outsides, like Sandro and Danilo, it adds another value. Like that's the way Atalanta used to play. The one defender always joins the attack. So Danilo, who was, most of the game he was in the back line, so he didn't waste too much energy. Then these guys can give you a sprint like he did in the 90-something minute. And it's a tactic that worked. It works for other teams. So I think Sandro and Danilo there maybe can add a different value that weren't accustomed to, because we won't see Bonucci or even Bremen making that run for that ball. Yeah. And that's utilizing the 2 roles he has in the club as a right back and as a center back, which I would expect we'd see more.
Yeah. Can I highlight someone who I think had a really good game that, a lot of fans don't like, including myself? I thought Rugani was very good yesterday. And there were a lot of players that were very good, but positionally, I mean, you look at just even like his touch, some of like the movements he was making were very good for someone who's, a 4th choice center back. I mean, you can kind of see a world as to why Allegri goes to him first when, one of your starters is down, even if we don't like it. I just think in the 3-5-2, it just complements him a little bit more, right?
We said this last year, Anth and I, a lot on Rugani, because he got quite a bit of time last season that probably he ever has, whatnot. But we were saying it's different watching him last season to any matches previously. That shaky leg nervousness that would come through in him is almost gone. Like he just looks a lot more calm and more comfortable for whatever reason. And that was going back last season. And this year it's a lot of the same. Like he just looks more confident. He's not an issue by any means. There's worse options you could pull out at center back, like if your main guy's down and whatnot. And yesterday he was absolutely fine. Absolutely fine.
I think it's great for these types of matches. Your Empolis, your Lecces, your games before and after Champions League, it's fine. When we have to play him against PSG, then it becomes a problem. But as long as that's his role,
something we need.
As long as that's his role, I'm fine with it. I have no problem. He does that very good.
I think that's part of the problem, right? Where it's like last year when he got crucified after Villarreal because he was not very good in that second leg. No one really was, but him especially. He shouldn't be in that kind of match, right? But this is the type of match where you can play him. He understands the 3-5-2. He's been in it before, and you're just like, all right, play this role. I don't have to worry about that because he understands it and he'll do it, right? And it's Empoli. It's his kind of level, right? Yeah. I just want to give a shout out to him a little bit.
Yeah, and I just want to going back to what I was thinking. Obviously, positionally, it was a little bit better. Omar highlighting the fact that the Metsalas were not drifting far out to flanks and everything. But just to show you interchange and whatnot, in the middle of the pitch still, You have Locatelli around 67 touches, which is roughly around what our registas get, which for me is a little bit interesting to be a little bit low. But then again, when you look at possession, kind of makes sense, especially that first half. 30 touches for Weston McKennie, one of the other midfielders, and Rabiot was at like 48 or something. So again, it's just off. It's an interesting way we play, but again, it's something that we've seen where we really push the ball through Kostic, Cuadrado, and whatnot. I think against better opposition and teams that might shut those flanks down, that's where our problem lies. And we'll get into this game and how much we take moving forward. Because I've said for a while now, when the chips were down, I'm taking it one game at a time. Okay, we'll go over the positives, but then we'll think how we truly feel overall as his performance moving forward. Adrian Rabiot. We have to talk about Adrian Rabiot, okay? Lou, man, I didn't set it up this way. I mean, guy put in the game. Jeremiah had him as his man of the match. His boundless energy is contagious this season. Seems to lift everybody's game. Good leadership and example on the pitch. Thoughts? So I had a tweet that a lot of people misinterpreted, and it was basically this. And it backs up what I said on the Match Day Live and my daily update video when the news broke out that Chelsea might try to land him in January. And I said, look, if you're Juve, maybe you want to pump the brakes on that because he's going to leave anyways at the end of the term. I know you want to bring a little capital, but he's not the main guy I would look for in capital. I still have Weston McKennie topping my list if we're looking for capital. Adrian Rabiot this season, whether it's because of a contract, because of World Cup, whatever it is, what he's bringing is fulfilling his role and his job in the middle of the pitch. And I don't think I would take that away in January until season's end because we've actually needed it. And that's all I'm saying. People took that in terms, you're going to re-sign this guy? No. I'm just saying I would probably scrap that capital and look for capital elsewhere before sending him away. Guys, your thoughts on Rabiot there, and do you just automatically pull that trigger in January if the deal's there?
Look, I checked some websites for overall performances during the season. Rabiot, according to some websites, is our best player this season. According to ratings, it's not my opinion; it's what I checked, but.
Yes, what was that?
Man, I had the picture of Rabiot. Now Omer's going for the kill on Lou here.
No, I'm just throwing out. I'm just throwing out some stats. It's not what I think. It's what stats are like thong. They hide all that's important. So, and Lou, I don't know. Rabiot has given us something we do need this season. Okay, we didn't get that from anyone else. If we did, I'd say, well, Rabiot is the best player, period. He's even in our top 10, like he was in previous years. So pull that trigger. I don't know. It seems like they have to choose in January, right? Either extend him or sell him for a minor fee or lose him for free and paying his entire salary. What would I do? I have no idea. We have to wait a bit and see some more games. Like I said, do that consistently and we can talk about something else. But one game at a time. This was a good one. Let's see him do the same against Benfica, maybe against Paris Saint-Germain, and then we'll talk about our options. Right now, status quo.
So we get to some of the comments here. So Nader said McKennie for sure. Rabiot if he wishes. Anthony coming in here, just adding more salt to the wound there for Lou. Listen, Michael, this is funny. Michael gives McKennie so much flack, okay, and then comes out and calls McKennie to score yesterday, which he does. And now he's saying, guys, come on, Rob, you're going to play like asking after. Look, that's fine. But right now, in this moment of time, my question is to you. If you had the option and you were going to deal one of those two guys, Rabiot or McKennie, based on what we've seen so far, who would you rather keep around? For me, McKennie has done nowhere near enough as Rabiot in terms of the roles.
So I understand what you guys are saying. valid points. But you take the Chelsea link, for example. Chelsea's a very desperate club. They may miss the top 4, right? They need help from anyone, right? If your performance is, I agree with that. I'd probably stop, but if his performances, continue on this track that everyone loves so much, I don't get it, but whatever, maybe they come up with like a large offer for him. Maybe you get like 35. That's about what McKennie's worth. So,
And no one
I don't
no
know.
one is
And
going to
Delson,
pay
you would
that
renew
much.
Rabiot without even thinking twice. Hey, I say that only at a lowered wage. It's got to be significantly lowered because even these games, whatever, if he was getting braces or even scoring a goal like way more consistently, okay, maybe a little higher than half. But we need some more. But
after the World Cup, I think that management is going to start looking at some of these expiring contracts, the ones they can renew or not. So I think that some of these guys that have expiring contracts that might be sold in January, maybe they know aren't renewing. So I think we'll know then, kind of like what's going on.
There's one other factor in this whole situation. Like there's Pogba lurking in the background.
Yeah.
And once he comes back, he throws the entire midfield, into a tornado of who's going to play. Or Paredes signing, who you pay him a lot. You're Locatelli. If you don't sell McKennie and he's doing fine, who is being dropped?
Yeah.
And Lou, what would it take for you to turn the corner for Rabiot?
The vet minimum.
Yeah.
His mother gets fired as his agent. I don't know.
The funny thing is, this is another thing about Rabiot. All the crap that I give him to about his mom being his agent, all this stuff, whatever. They've caused Juve no drama. No issues.
Pretty good for Juve.
What's that?
They've been pretty good in terms of drama. Nothing.
Dude, there's been no issues. Haneen saying Lou needs to apologize to Rabiot.
The agenda always comes first.
Oh man. So look here's the thing. Number one, when it comes to Rabiot and these rumors in January, I don't think anyone's coming out paying for a guy that's going to be, free. Maybe depending on World Cup. And, if he can keep performances like that rolling, maybe a team that really needs it might take a stab at it, but I doubt it. I would expect him to finish. And honestly, the hypothetical was just if the deal was in place, I thought Juve should probably think twice about it based on what he's been doing. He's been, and like Omer pointed out, some say are best in the middle of the park. The other guys have been kind of just not there. Now we get to the middle of the park leading into obviously the Champions League match. Everybody's been naming this particular midfield, and I want to get your thoughts, saying we need to play Rabiot, Paredes, and Locatelli in the middle of the pitch as R3. Guys, how do you feel about that midfield? Is that the way forward for Juventus, obviously, in terms of until Pogba actually does return and whatnot? What do you guys think about that midfield?
I think for right now, this current midfield, I keep it. Don't change anything. In fact, I'd go to Benfica with this almost exact lineup, minus the Rugani playing center back. I think that changes. But, don't really mess with anything while it works. I think that right now you have 3 players that understand their jobs, their roles. They do different things. They're not – I think Paredes and Locatelli kind of do the same thing. They get in each other's way. Don't mess with it, right? Like the team is playing well. If they play well and lose, as long as they play well midweek, I don't really have much expectations for what could happen in the Champions League. I think it's kind of done. But if the team plays well and they lose with this lineup, just keep it the way it is until it's broke. Don't make another issue for yourself amongst all the other issues you have. I think that also too having, Moretti and Paredes off the bench, I think is part of the reason why in the second half we're able to hit the extra gear, was to have people come on and give you fresh legs and energy and ideas. So don't fix it unless it's broken.
Yeah.
That's
I'll echo what Luke said. Basically, you just started, racking up the wins, and the performances are a bit more convincing. So don't change it. Like Locatelli suddenly understands his role. Don't push him into a new role and make him understand new stuff. If it works, it works. So far.
So you keep all things the same going into Benfica's match?
Well, not all things, but the midfield, yeah.
Okay, well, let's talk about all things. So 3-5-2 is 3-5-2 the way forward for Juventus, and even when Chiesa returns, because 3-5-2 seems to be how we've been able to generate our best halves of football and whatnot. It's been the 3-5-2. What do you guys think?
I think until the World Cup, yes. I think after the World Cup, a 4-2-3-1 probably suits a fully fit team. But I think that, like until the World Cup, we're not going to see the best probably of Chiesa, Pogba, Di Maria whenever they come back. They're going to have a couple matches, right? It's not going to be kind of your peak. So I think now, like, it suits kind of this, group of, I don't want to call them misfits, but kind of like, like this group that we have that's not extremely popular. It's just, I think for now, the 3-5-2, it suits them. And I think that they've been playing it long enough where it seems to be like they're starting to understand it a little bit. I don't want to get too overhyped, but it looked like, a little bit in Torino, but more so this match, they understand it a little bit more. Maybe Allegri understands it a little bit more. So I wouldn't change it yet, but I do think end game is the 4-2-3-1.
Yeah. Okay. Omer?
Yeah, I think, well, it doesn't play to the best of our abilities as the rest of the team goes. Like, it's good for now because of all the injured players, and Chiesa will take time getting back to full match fitness. But once Chiesa, Pogba, Di Maria, and Bremer are healthy, then it's not our best line. It's not the way to best utilize our players. It's a good thing to have in your arsenal to shift into a 3-5-2 when you need it.
Yeah.
But once these guys are back, they have to play. And I don't see them fitting all together in a 3-5-2.
Yeah. And that's pretty much it. And that's exactly how I feel. Alex P is essentially nailing exactly what I was going to say. They're game changers, Chiesa and Pogba. You change stuff when they return, not prior. So if the 3-5-2 is working right now, let's keep her going. Once Chiesa is back, is that enough to do it on its own? I do personally believe, and even going back to the midfield, I wanted to kind of tie this all in. I still think we need to work a two-man pivot. I think we need to work a two-man pivot, and I think you need to put one attack-minded midfielder, but play him out of the middle. I keep yelling this. I think it's honestly going to make a big, big difference for this team, especially when you're looking at this. McKennie, he bagged his goal. It was off a corner kick that he gets his head to. He's got an aerial presence. Outside of that, 30 touches out of the midfield for us is essentially having a guy not terribly involved.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's Moretti's far more involved when he's in there, and that's being predominantly left side when he's been in the lineup. Put that kid in the center, up top, ahead of your two pivots, and let him be that guy for both sides, left and right, and see what can happen. It's shocking to me we haven't at least tried it.
The thing is, I think we will see it. Like, I think that it's there, right? Like, I think in terms of ideas, it's there. I don't think McKennie is intelligent enough to do that role. To get to, we know Allegri likes these hybrid, like, kind of mixes, right? It's like it's a 3-5-2, but it's a 4-4-2, and it's a 4-2-3-1. Like, it changes in phases of the game. And I think that when you have intelligent players like Chiesa and Pogba and Di Maria, you can do that, right? I just don't think McKennie understands that yet. I think Moretti is a very intelligent player, and I think he gets it. He just maybe hasn't developed the skill sets to excel it, right? Like, he doesn't have the goals yet to do that. But Pogba can do that. And even if you look big picture, I think Pogba is kind of the key to the puzzle, because it's you're talking about 28, 29-year-old. Like, what is he going to be? Is it going to be like the Pogba from France that plays in a double pivot? Or is it going to be the Pogba that we remember that could play further up the pitch, right? Is it that kind of Pogba? Because you see some of the rumors the players were linked with in the midfield are more attack-minded players. Is that the grand plan? We don't really know. And I do think that's a part of it. I think you're right. Like, that position is a part of it. But we're not really going to know until we see Pogba for a length of time, what position he's going to occupy and what it's going to look like.
Yeah, I think it also aid Dusan a lot, because right now he's the main guy, and we saw yesterday and against Torino, like, they focused their entire defense on stopping Dusan, which creates openings for the other team members, but not for Dusan himself. And suddenly having guys who are considered world class and you have to fear them, like Chiesa and like Pogba, suddenly I think Vlahovic will find a bit more room, and all of the attention won't be on him. So pushing Pogba further closer to goal will force the defenders to pay attention to him all game, and Dusan can really, make something out of it.
Yeah. Looking at it from my perspective, like what I was trying to get at is if you don't try it before, it would help the rest of the team get used to having a player in that role, in that position, so that when Pogba does enter, obviously higher quality and whatnot, it should, in theory, they should be used to it. It's just a different body, and now all of a sudden they can move forward with it a little smoother.
A little push, but I do think they tried it a little bit at the beginning of the season. I think they tried it in the Roma game with Moretti, right? And he did it very well in that match, right? But he doesn't, like, he's not a goal scorer or assist guy yet. I think he'll get there eventually, but he's only 19 years old. And they've tried it a couple of times with McKinney. I just don't think that those guys do that necessarily well yet. So I think kind of what we're seeing now is temporarily until someone can, do it well enough to really execute it. We've seen it with Di Maria a little bit too. I thought in the Maccabi game at home, he occupied that role really well. Even the Sassuolo match that we, when we crushed them in the opener, I thought he occupied that role really well. Kind of that midfielder that's playing off the striker. He was doing that very good, and it worked very well. I don't think we have the personnel yet to do it every match. I think eventually we will see it, though.
So Anthony coming in here saying Moretti doesn't have the body. He gets bullied, has the skill. But I think that only holds true if you're putting him pound for pound with McKinney as the replacement. But I'm talking about actually switching the position completely, playing at the center. So you have your two base pivot midfielders. They do the grunt work and most of the defensive side. Moretti's essentially working a straight line in the center of the pitch and then being that option for left and right as you close up into the final third and that link up to Dusan. So I don't think, that's in theory, he's got the build of a center attacking mid, really. Maybe he's a little shorter or whatnot, but if you're playing him as a side Metsala, that would usually get bigger bodies and whatnot. So if you're playing him there already, I don't see any harm in trying him as an attacking mid ahead of the two base. I don't see
how physical is Modric.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. I just don't see any fear in that, really.
No, I think a lot of the Moretti thing. This is a player that just came to the first team, right? That the minutes he logged in the opening match or the opening part of the season, I don't think was the expectation nor the plan, right? But, injuries kind of change things a little bit. I think that, what we'll see now is kind of the Moretti we saw when he first, played, where he's able to take a match off. He's not playing it every 3 days. I think that can be said about a lot of our teams. The healthier you get, the more you're able to get some of these guys a little bit fresh. To come back to this tactical side of the things, I think that's why we've seen Keane inserted a little bit more. He could play kind of the center forward role that Dybala occupied last year that kind of made up for a little bit of that lack of, creative attacking mid, and Dusan does very well with that. They run off when he gets doubled. You have someone that runs off of you. I think temporarily until we get your Pogba, your Di Maria, even your Chiesa back, that's kind of what we're looking at. Is that's the solution for now until you're fully fit.
Yeah.
But it's definitely something to see as we get closer to those dates. Do we start seeing that? I think where Pogba plays is going to be pretty fascinating going into the World Cup and even after the World Cup for us.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see. Keeping it with the young guys, Fagioli, and obviously Fagioli's been in the news as of late about potentially loaning out. We'll get to Storm the Barn too. So Storm the Barn questions are coming in. I've got one from Hanin that we are going to get to. We're going to get to Jeremiah's first because he specifically brings up Fagioli, which is, does Max have some beef with Fagioli? He never gets the minutes, keeps getting snubbed. Thoughts on Fagioli's lack of time? Does it come down to the fact in the preseason, like I was saying, he just didn't give enough, but I still thought he should have had some opportunities here and there? Is he just at the bottom of the totem pole and he needs to be moved to get those minutes? Where do you guys think? I don't think Max has any problems. Max has been a big advocate of Fagioli's dating back to his first tenure with Juventus. and always had positive things to say with Fagioli. So maybe that's why some are a little surprised at the lack of playing time. But what do you guys think with the whole Fagioli situation? Do you think he's should have had more minutes up until now? Lou brought up a good point about rotation, keeping guys healthy and everything like that. I can't help but feel Fagioli could have been used up until now a little bit more to at least test it and give him more opportunities.
I 100% agree. I don't understand like why he hasn't been used before. I mean, unless it's like the Gatti thing where it's like you said earlier in the podcast, maybe there's something in training that we don't see, right? There's like something that we aren't privy to that they see and they're like alarmed by, but I can't figure it out. And, like it's even like going back to the Maccabi post-match, which I've kind of used as a joke in our group message, where Agnelli highlighted him and Swole, and they're two players that don't play. I can't figure that one out. I don't get it.
Look, maybe, I don't know. It always brings me back to guys like Jovinko, who everyone wanted to see play, was this talented guy, but he went through 4 managers and none of them, saw fit to put him in the starting 11 consistently. And I said, well, if it's one manager, then it might be something between them. But if it's more than that, then maybe there's something in training we don't get to see that Max sees, and that's what he bases his decision on. Should he have gotten more minutes? Absolutely. There were tons of chances throughout the season so far. And no, just keeping him on the bench, not playing him is not good for anyone, not for Juve and not for Fagioli. So if that situation continues until the World Cup, then it's better for him to go to another loan in January, maybe till the end of the season. Sometimes, you can't fit everyone. Sometimes you just can't.
My overall frustration with this, I think just in general with some of the youth players, if you don't think you're going to use someone like Fagioli, right, why not give him a loan? Like, or just get rid of him. Like, at some point you have to make a hard decision, which is, hey, we don't have space for this guy. We got to let him go. It's like they just made an empty promise. So now you're going to send him on loan for half a season and then bring him back next year. Where's your basis for that? Right. Yeah. Like that to me, like, you see what De Winter talked about. His performance yesterday wasn't great, but the matches leading up to this, playing well. Rovella has had a very good loan spell at Monza. Yes, the Hive is still thriving, that's what I don't understand. Is like, hey, like why make that call to keep him if you're not going to use him at all? Like, I just don't understand it.
Fagioli kind of gave them an ultimatum and said, like, I'm not going to renew unless I'm promised some type of, commitment from Juventus and whatnot. And it's all like, he got it and we were all hyped up. And then it's just been like, he doesn't even get the opportunity. Dels brings up a point here. There's a stigma coming from Serie B. And I mean, look no further to Gatti. Should Gatti have had more than 180 minutes so far in the season? I think so. Here's the thing. Here's why. It's not like we have been thriving this year and guys are firing on all cylinders. So if there's ever a moment, and we talk about rotation and injuries and whatnot, we've literally dealt with all of that. We've dealt with poor runs of performances. We've dealt with injuries. We've dealt with being thin at depth. And these guys still have such little minutes. It's hard to just completely wash out this stigma.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
I mean, I do think that's a part of it. I was scrolling through the comments and I saw Tony's comment about maybe he just doesn't understand what, whatever Max wants. It's got to be the stigma or it's that. Like, I can't figure out which one it is, but I just look back to Juventus and the way that we, built our club and like the motto, we were a standard in Italy and how we did business, right? Yes, Fagioli renewing was important, right? It's an important sign, but you also have assets like Moretti. You just signed Yildiz. If that's your ultimatum and you only brought a guy back for your ultimatum, what does that say about your club? There's a disconnect there that frustrates me, and I can't figure out what it is.
Look at what Verratti did. Verratti went from Serie B straight to Paris Saint-Germain, straight into the starting 11, and look at his career and how it's going. He might not have gotten the same attitude in Italy, let alone at Juve. I can also look at, what's his name, Tonali. Milan has a project of youngsters, and he might have gone down to Serie B, but he did get the minutes. He had a bit of a rough first season, but then he picked up.
And I want to make this very clear because comments like the one Omer just made can be misinterpreted so quickly. Nobody's putting Fagioli at the level of Verratti, but what we're saying is you've got to shit or get off the pot if you're Juventus with these guys and cut the cord and either move accordingly. But we seem to drag on youngsters for quite a period of time to where they eventually turn into nothing for us, and then we still don't have that next contingency plan. So there's something there that Juve needs to kind of work in. And I've always said this, especially with Cherubini right now, because his work is being highlighted so tremendously. And with every guy that I hear about now, these young guys, and now potentially a phenom in Yildiz, integration. That's going to be the biggest question for me regarding all these guys. Rovella is another one that, hey, there was some of us saying, why Paredes just keep Rovella around, especially if it's going to be second fiddle to Locatelli or whatnot. But we were all being told Paredes is better than Locatelli, whatnot. I disagreed. Like, I thought, no, I don't really see that. Unless you were planning and your game plan was to play the two of those guys together, Paredes, Locatelli, I didn't quite fully understand. And I was told Paredes is going to come and you guys are going to forget all about Locatelli. Well, I haven't, and I still would pick Locatelli over Paredes, gun to my head. Rovella could have sticked around easily. And he showed it in the matches he was being played prior to being loaned out. And again, now you've got Paredes. Obviously, there's stipulations that need to be met to make it an obligation to purchase and whatnot. But again, you've got a team fighting the finances too. And Paredes comes in on, a healthy wage, potentially going to be an obligation to purchase. Where does that put Rovella next season as well?
Yeah.
Another team with a decreased value.
Could be. I want to highlight something you mentioned there about Locatelli and Paredes. And, we give Allegri a lot of crap, and I think rightly so. But to play devil's advocate, kind of big picture, I think the Retoro, what they did, they met and they said, all right, who's the guys that are going to bleed for this team? We need to find unity. We need to find, people that play with passion. They might not be the best players, but we need that energy, people that respect the shirt, right? And I think that, some of the stuff you hear about Paredes and even Di Maria, some of these guys, maybe they weren't respecting the shirt just enough. And maybe that's why you're seeing, kind of the lineups we're doing is, Max, to his credit, maybe, some of these guys, the coaching staff, they're just like, right, these guys aren't the best players in terms of technique, talent, but they're giving us the most. They're working the most. They're showing us the most. And maybe that's the way forward. They're just like, if we're going to lose, we're going to trust the guys that at least are going to, go out and perform, right? So, maybe there's an element of that kind of going on with that Paredes thing. Some of the reports we tracked in the news this week, a lot of disappointment from the Juventus management, not just in terms of performances, but attitude when it comes to Paredes. So, I think that's a storyline to watch as the year goes on.
Absolutely. Fantastic point. And to Lou's point there as well, maybe these lineups and this everything is exactly that. Put the trust and the faith. So while it might be spun as age and the youngster be pushed out, it's who are the guys that are going to bleed for this shirt and go out there and give it their all. So it's an interesting thought. One other interesting point Alex P made in terms of our discussion about the young guys and even Fagioli and whatnot, maybe this moment, this current moment and all that animosity, all that tension was just not the right scenario for them to put those guys in at the front. And that's why another reason why they put the weight and the burden on the vets. That's the flip side.
Really fair point. And I think, I'm sure there's people that will rebut that with like Moretti, but Moretti was around that team a lot last year. And last year there was a lot of crap that went around. Not as bad as this year, but enough where it was like, very serious moments. You had the Ronaldo issue at the start of the year. You had some of the ups and downs throughout the year. Alex could be right here that, maybe it's just, this is not a good time to integrate someone like that.
Yeah. And, a question here, Dan, but the real question is, are we going to beat a top 4 team this season? Look, that's the tests. So far, Max has failed miserably in the tests, okay, that he's faced in his year and a half back. Our next gauge may very well be, well, obviously we got a Champions League match against Benfica and whatnot, but if we're talking about league, that Inter match is going to be big. And if his big guns come back, what does it become if the big guns come back and we fall flat on our face? Is it, well, they haven't had enough time together? Is it, you know what I mean? Like you're going to get another string. Look, we're done with excuses. We got to start getting the job done against these bigger teams and measure up and move forward. But it's interesting when you think about all these scenarios circulating around Juve. Like they've dealt with a lot in a short time frame this season. Like this is massive. I had my doubts about Max being able to turn this thing around so far. And this is another thing about this game, this Empoli match, because you don't want to go up here after this match, but it's also much better than just down here where we were. Like we're probably about halfway. And the only thing I saw change, because tactically we've done nothing different. Okay. Positionally, we were maybe a bit sharper and better. We did nothing different in this match against Empoli. But in the second half, our tempo was incredible. The one thing that has changed, and Lou alluded to it since the Retiro, has been the attitude, the work rate, that willingness to sacrifice for that guy next to you. Rabiot, countless amount of times getting beyond to be level with the back line, made a couple great interventions yesterday. You have the same with McKennie on the opposite side, doing the same, backing up Quadrado. Danilo making an error, busting his ass to get back there to make sure he's level with his defenders, since the Bonucci had to slide out to the right. That's the one thing we've seen change. So I don't take a whole lot out of this Empoli match, but that has to remain constant. That's been one of my bare minimums that I've wanted from the team. I said, regardless of results, that kind of effort and determination is all I need to see to at least be able to be happy with what I'm seeing. The rest comes down to tactics, how we're utilizing our key guys and getting the best out of them. But if there's the positive to take out of that, it's that has definitely turned around. That's been one turnaround I've seen. That's about all I take, one match at a time. Omer?
Yeah, I think, climbing the ladder step by step, the next test would probably be Inter.
Yeah.
Like we have, 4 games till that match. Let's see improvement game by game. And then when we reach the match against Inter, or in pretty similar situation to us, that will be the next max test. But one game at a time. Let's see improvement against Benfica. And that's the first one that should be a win against the top 4 if everything goes according to plan.
So this comment, it's true. And that
it is true.
Really a workout. But what I wanted to say that I take away from this match, and Empoli is they're a tricky opponent to play against. They're not like a typical mid-table team. They are very organized. They're very difficult to break down. What I did like about this game was that, yes, they went to defensive posture, up until the second goal. But sometimes in games, it's not always pretty, and sometimes you have to grind games out. And I felt like they grinded out towards that second goal. They got it. They added some fresh legs, and then they just hit the blood, right? And I think that in the past, we wouldn't see Juventus grind down the game like that. In the past, I think that game probably ends up like a 1-1 or a 1-0 where it's defensive the whole second half. We saw that a lot last year. And I just think that I don't want to read into it too much because it's only one game, well, technically 2 games, I guess, but really only one. But, I think that it's a good show of, hey, we were able to grind a game out. We did it together. They kept after it. I don't know if you watch the body language of some of the players, but very active. Even when the subs were on. I mean, I saw Kostick yell at Milik a couple times when he missed some of his runs. The energy, the unity, kind of the way they celebrated, it was just different. And I think it's a good building block, hopefully, for something more. They just have to keep building up on it.
That might be my main, complaint towards Max. Like 1-0 is very fragile, and we always drop back after that. Get that second goal, that deflates the other team, especially mid-table teams. Like
But
your Paris
also,
Saint-Germain will have. We don't score the second goal usually. We get that 1-0.
This is not necessarily just the problem that happened here. This is kind of something we've seen in the past too. I feel like sometimes it is Allegri. Allegri is defensive. We know that, and it's partially him. It's partially his instruction. But I think sometimes the players, when like it's not working, go into a safety net, which is like, what do we do best? It's defend, and they just like they freeze sometimes. And it happened under Pirlo. It happened under Sarri a few times. I don't think it's sometimes mentally, and some of those players are still here. I know we've changed a lot of players, but some of those players, the leaders, are still here. I feel like mentally they do that a little bit. And I thought yesterday, mentally, when they grinded out that second goal, which kind of came from nowhere, they were kind of like, okay, like we can do this. We can come out a little bit more. Like we don't need to necessarily do this for a whole 90 minutes. I think there's a mental part of it that is improving a little bit with the players that may help this defensive.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be someone, listen, I'm not like an Allegri apologist. I don't want to be that kind of person, but just to play devil's advocate, I think that's a part of the equation here.
Listen, so we've I just want to highlight Haneen's because this was essentially his storm the barn was, have we actually finally turned a corner and whatnot? So I just want to highlight that question and whatnot. But listen, it's regardless of why, how, whatnot, but like a one goal lead, that defensive line needs to step it up and they need to pick it up and they can't just drop back. You're right, Lou. It hasn't just come up. It hasn't just been a this season thing or whatnot. But regardless of the why or the how or whatnot, it is something that needs to be sorted out. Yeah. And like I said, even if we look at this particular match, you've got 2 goals from set pieces on corner kicks and whatnot. And then you have one at the end of the game on a fast break. Sure, there were chances in there before to really put the team. We could have had 7 goals in this game, if we're being honest. But still, against better opposition, there are still things that this team needs to improve. One is that back line dropping off with a lead. That is massive. You can't do that against good teams and allow them. This game could have been killed early on, and we could have got rotation. We could have been in arguably a better scenario going into the Champions League match, depending on who Max wants to play. But the other thing is the amount of possession that we just sacrifice. And against Empoli, things came a little bit easy, but they don't come that easy against these bigger teams. And again, we're pretty one-dimensional in the way we attack, and that didn't change yesterday. So this is why I'm still, I'm optimistic about the attitude and everything there. I have seen a big shift, but I still see tactical parts of this game and this team that will creep up as you face tougher opposition. Tuesday's going to be a big one, okay, against Benfica there. We have to win, or the help that we need doesn't even really matter. So it's got to be a victory. It's going to be big. We have run into overtime here on the show, but it's been a wild discussion, like so much good stuff. You guys are amazing. We're going to get to one last Storm the Barn question from Jeremiah. We have to finish a show like this, so Lou will understand. Wow. Can Rabiot score 10 goals minimum this season, all competitions? I believe he can. Lou, would you like to take a bet with me?
Oh, what's he on now in all competitions?
I think he doesn't have any in the outside tournament. 4 or 5 maybe total. I think 4 though.
Oh, Jeremiah.
So 6 more goals. Are you willing to take that bet, Lou?
I will buy Jeremiah a Rabiot kit if he hits 10 goals in all.
No way. Amazing.
No way, that's
amazing.
Money.
Wow.
Yeah.
On a Rabiot
shirt. The admin to DM Jeremiah if you agree to that. If he scores in 10 in all competitions, I'll buy you a Rabiot kit.
Unbelievable. That's amazing. All right. Guys, been a great show. A lot to tackle. And again, really the message stays the same. And that's one game at a time. All right. But we did highlight positives. Okay. And there are great things going on as far as the unity amongst the squad and everything. That's on the up. Okay. But let's keep the wheels rolling on this train. Okay. Or on this bus. Okay. Champions League Tuesday. Guys, are we winning?
Ooh, Yes, let's go positive. Yes.
Omer, we winning?
We do.
Hell yeah. I don't make predictions the days leading up to games, but I'll tell you right now, Juve's not conceding in that game. That's one prediction I'll tell you right now. Juve will not concede, okay? They will not concede in that game, and we will win. We are winning on
We
Tuesday.
will have another look on Grimaldo.
Benfica wins, so we can guarantee it.
I
There we
want
go.
Grimaldo.
We need
January.
Skanga on here calling for the Benfica win so that they get a job, and then that will seal it. There you go. Guys, you've all been amazing. Again, take a quick second, like the video, okay? If you're new here, subscribe to the channel. Everybody that's been tuning in on your audio outlets, get over to YouTube, subscribe, okay? We're so close to 3K. Let's see what we can finish by season's end. Let's keep it rolling, all right? AJC Army, you guys are the best. Don't forget when the recording ends to drop a comment, any comment, Skanga out, Berto out, whatever. Drop a comment in there. It all helps the channel, okay? Forza Juve, fino alla fine, on to Tuesday, okay? Ciao tutti.